what were their names? Aaron and Miriam, yes. And so we are introduced to those folks. We're introduced to the pharaohs at that time. God sends him, and God delivers the people out of Egypt, out from the most powerful nation at the time. And the children of Israel didn't have to raise a finger. God did all of this. He went before them. He promised them that he would go before them. And you remember the people, they get there to the Red Sea and they don't know what to do, right? Oh, you're going to let us out here to die? And Moses tells them to be still and see the glory of the Lord. And the Red Sea parts, they go over on dry ground. And when they're over, Pharaoh's armies comes in. The Red Sea closes on him, and the armies of the most powerful nation at that time are destroyed. The people then are ready. God is leading them out of Egypt to go into the land that he promised Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph. He goes in, and the land is there ready for the taking if they will only have faith in God. And they get there, and they send 12 men to spy out that land, right? So do they go into the land at that time? No. But there are two faithful spies. We're introduced to one of them right after the children of Israel come out of Egypt, when they fight the king Amalek, right? Joshua's there fighting the king. But remember, two of those spies that went into the land were faithful, Joshua and Caleb. So there we're introduced to Joshua. The children of Israel do not get to enter in, Hebrews tells us, because of unbelief, disbelief. They do not enter in, and they have to wander 1 year for each day they were spying the land. So they wander the desert for 40 years, and the generations that did not have faith to go in die off. And when it comes time, Joshua then leads the children of Israel, after that 40 years pass, into Canaan and conquers that land. And so you'll remember that's Joshua, gets us to Joshua. So Joshua gets old, okay? And at that time, God tells him to divide the land up amongst the tribes of Israel, and he does that. We see the land promise fully realized. We see the 6 cities of refuges all established there in that land. God gives them the land that he promised fully. Now, were there any stipulations on this promise and whether they could keep it or not? What was it? God gave them a commandment. They had to obey. That commandment was you go in and you utterly destroy everyone out of that land. Why? Because if you don't, they will draw your sons and daughters away to the false gods of this land, okay? And so did the tribes that go in utterly destroy the people? Remember, we looked. You begin in the book of Judges. Judah goes in. He destroys most of the people, but he leaves those people there that had chariots of iron in the valley. He didn't draw them out. And then we read tribe after tribe after tribe did not utterly destroy the people. Okay? And that gets us, Joshua dies, right? He leaves them, choose this day who you will serve, but as for me and my house, we'll serve the Lord. The people there after him said, we will serve the Lord. And the generation after Joshua serves the Lord. And then what happens? Joshua's died. A generation rises up that doesn't know God, and the people get into this cycle of sin, right? Bondage, oppression. They cry out to God, and God delivers them. And then we have judges that are sent, 15 of them. And that's where we got last week. So who was the woman judge that we studied? Deborah. Angel called Gideon to be a judge. Gideon delivered Israel from, do you remember what people? Starts with the M. Midianites. Who was the strong judge? Samson. Samson killed 1,000 men with what? A sword? No, jawbone of a donkey. Must have been a sight to behold. What caused Samson, or who caused Samson to lose his strength? Delilah. Yeah. So then we studied just a few of the judges of the 15 there. And then we studied someone else that lived during the time of the judges. And so this was the woman who followed her mother-in-law Naomi. Who was it? Ruth. Ruth accepted Naomi's God. Why is that weird? She wasn't an Israelite, right? She was from Moab. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. Where you go, I will go. And so Ruth, they go back to Israel, and they end up. Ruth gets us, right? She's one of these connecting characters. She gets us to a specific place. Remember where? Bethlehem. She gets us to Bethlehem, which was the city of David, also the city of Christ, where he was born. Okay, but there they go back to Bethlehem, and Ruth marries who? Boaz. Ruth was David's great-grandmother. And that gets us to our study today. We're going to study about Samuel and Saul. So Eli was an old judge. And go ahead and open up to 1 Samuel. Eli and Samuel were the last two judges. Eli was an old man, and Samuel was the last judge. Now, in my Bible, when I look at 1 Samuel, my Bible says otherwise. It's called the first book of the Kings. So 1 Samuel's the first book of Kings. 2 Samuel's the second book of the Kings. 1 Kings is the third book of the Kings, and 2 Kings is the fourth book of the Kings, right? So we start getting into these book of the Kings. So we get from Judges into Kings, right? So Samuel is one of these, another transition characters. So keep this in your mind. Now, we study about Eli because he's also connected in this as well. So in Samuel 1, let me go here. Okay, we'll look at Samuel 1 and 2. We're introduced to a woman named Hannah, okay? And she was married to a man that had two wives, right? And Hannah was barren, right? A common sort of theme that we're hitting here in the Old Testament. And they would go year by year to the house of the Lord, and the wife that could have children provoked Hannah every time, made fun of her, caused her issues. And so they go into the house of the Lord, and Eli is there, and he sees Hannah, and he sees her mouthing words. Well, she's praying to God. She wants a son. Okay? And this prayer is very intense. If you look, verse 12, it came to pass as she continued praying before the Lord that Eli marked her mouth. He looked at her mouth. Now Hannah, she spoke in her heart. Only her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli thought she was drunk. And Eli said to her, "How long will you be drunk? Put away wine from yourself." And Hannah answered and said, "No, my Lord, I'm a woman of sorrowful spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but I have poured out my soul before the Lord. Count not your handmaid for a daughter of Belial," which is wickedness, trash, filthiness. "For out of the abundance of my complaint to grief have I spoken hereto." And Eli answered and said, "Go in peace, and the God of Israel grant you your petition that you have asked of him." So you see what happens here. She's very intent in her prayers. Eli thinks she's drunk, but she explains herself, and she says, "Go, and it will be as you have asked." Verse 20, Hannah conceives. She bears a son. She calls his name Samuel, because I have, and King James says, because I have asked him of the Lord. The name Samuel means God has heard. Okay, she's asking, God has heard. That's his name, Samuel. And what is her promise here? Look at verse 22. Hannah went, so the yearly thing comes around, verse 21. Elkanah and his house go up to offer the Lord the yearly sacrifice and his vow, but Hannah did not go up, for she said to her husband, "I will not go up until the child be weaned. Then I will bring him, that he may appear before the Lord and there abide forever." She was saying in her prayers, if you give me a son, God, I will give him back for you forever. So give me a child for a short time, and I will give him back for you forever. And that should be our attitude with our own children. God, give me a child. I will raise them up, so they will be yours forever. She makes the promise, verse 28, verse 27, 28, "For this child I prayed, and the Lord has given me my petition when I asked of him. Therefore also I have lent him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he shall be lent to the Lord," and he worshiped the Lord there. So all of this comes to pass. Eli's the last judge. She sees Hannah praying this prayer. Hannah has a child. The child's name is Samuel. She promises the child to the Lord, and then she delivers on that promise. Let's look at chapter 2 just quickly, because there's this contrast here. Eli's a judge. He's a priest here. And so what would you expect his children to be? You would expect them to be followers of God, followers in that footstep, right? But in verse 2, we find this out. The sons of Eli were the sons of Belial. Your version may have something else. They were wicked people. Okay? Awful, wicked, filthy. They did awful things. They knew not the Lord. Okay, so what's the problem there? You've got this man of God, but he has children, and his children do not know the Lord. Okay, and therefore they are Belial, they are wicked. And so they come here and they do tell the children of Israel to do these things with the sacrifices. In verse 22, verse 22 and 23, Eli hears about all the wickedness of his sons and what they do. They lie with women at the temple doors and these things, and they're awful people. But verse 18 or verse 17, the sin of the young men of Israel was great because they abhorred the offering of the Lord, because Eli's sons was making a mockery of all of these things. Even the children of Israel abhorred even doing these things. But verse 18, we have a contrast. But Samuel ministered before the Lord, being a child, girded up with a linen ephod. Moreover, his mother made him a little coat, brought it to him year by year, and she came with her husband to offer yearly sacrifice. Interesting, verse 20 and 21, Hannah, who was barren, now conceives. She gets 3 sons and 2 daughters, and Samuel grows before the Lord. So you have this contrast, wicked sons of the man of God that is there before the people, as opposed to Samuel, who's going to be righteous before God. At the end of chapter 2, remember, we like to look at these things to see what God says, and does God do what he says? At the end of chapter 2, verse 34, Eli, God says, this will be a sign to you that shall come upon your 2 sons, on Hophni and Phinehas, and one day they're both going to die. I will raise me up a faithful priest that shall do according to that which is in my heart. God says he's going to do what's in my heart, God's heart, and in my mind, God's mind. And God, I will build him a sure house, and he shall walk before mine anointed forever. And it shall come to pass that everyone that's left in the house shall come and cry to him for a piece of silver, a morsel of bread, and say, put me, I pray, into one of the priest's offices, that I may eat a piece of bread. So you have these sons of Eli that are leading the people away to where they even hate the priesthood and they hate doing these laws. But God says, I'm going to raise up this one where people are going to be begging to be in the priesthood, that want to do this because he's so righteous. And that's what we're going to see. God says this is going to happen. It's not going to be you, but I'm going to raise me up someone else. And that gets us to chapter 3, where we see Samuel. He's ministering to Eli. And look at verse 1. King James says, the word of the Lord was precious in those days. There was no open vision. Your Bible may have something different. The word of the Lord was rare in those days. You have prophets. God would speak to men. Hebrews 1:1, God in sundry times, divers manners spoke to the people by the prophets. God would speak to them, but at this time, that was very rare. Literally says there was no vision happening at all because the people are wicked. But Samuel here is going to get a vision. And so you'll remember, Samuel's laying here trying to sleep, and the Lord calls Samuel. He says, here I am. But Samuel doesn't know. He just hears this voice. He doesn't know who it is. So he goes, Eli, and did you call me? He said, no, I didn't call you. Go lie down. Right? You get this idea of this little kid, at least in my mind, bothering this old man, waking him up out of the sleep. Right? And he does this a few times. Go lie down, go lie down. And then he finally says, verse 10, Eli tells him, verse 9, if you hear this again, go lay down. And you say, speak, Lord, for your servant hears. So Samuel went down and laid down. In verse 10, the Lord came and stood, called as other times, Samuel, Samuel. And Samuel answered, speak, for your servant hears. Now this is what Samuel gets told. Okay? Now remember, Eli's the old wise judge at the time. Samuel, this young man, Samuel is told this. The Lord said to Samuel, verse 11, Behold, I will do a thing in Israel, at which both the ears of everyone that hear it shall tingle. This is going to be something that's going to happen, and it's going to be something that, wow, I can't believe that. I mean, it makes their ears tingle, right? 12. In that day I will perform against Eli all the things that I have spoken concerning his house. When I begin, I will make it an end. When I start, I'll finish it. Okay? What did he tell him? One day, both your sons are going to die at once. And I'm going to judge his house. Verse 13. For I have told him that I will judge his house forever. For the iniquity which he knows, because his sons made themselves vile, and what? He restrained them not. Okay, that's the problem here. I mean, Eli could have been redeemed if he would have tried to correct his children, but he didn't even try to restrain them from these things. Okay? So, God is going to judge his house. Verse 14, Therefore I have sworn unto the house of Eli that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be purged with sacrifice or offering forever. Okay, that's pretty bad, right? God is, I'm saying, I'm done with what you're doing. Judgment's coming on your house. And this is this young Samuel that's getting all these words about the one he's serving here. Hey, it could not have been an easy thing to do. Verse 15, And Samuel laid until the morning and opened the doors of the house of the Lord. And Samuel feared to show Eli the vision. Right? And you can understand that. But Eli says, Samuel, come here. What did the Lord tell you? Verse 18, Samuel tells him everything, and he hid nothing from him. And he said, It is the Lord, let him do what seems good. And that was Eli's response. Okay, so through Samuel, this vision comes after vision had been locked up for some time. When visions were rare, it comes through Samuel. And Samuel goes and tells him what is going to happen. Chapter 4, we see this come to fruition. Chapter 4, the Philistines come in. The children of Israel are fighting them, and the Philistines take the Ark of the Covenant, the Ark of God. Okay? And at the same time, Phinehas and Hophni are both killed. Verse 11. When all of this happens, they go into town and they tell Eli. Verse 15. Eli was 98 years old. His eyes were dim. He could not see. And the man told Eli, I'm he that came out of the army. I fled today out of the army. And he said, What is done there, my son? The messenger answered and said, Israel's fled before the Philistines. There has been a great slaughter among the people, and your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead. And the ark of God is taken. So that's what happened. Your sons are dead. Okay, so that's some news. But he also gets the news that the ark is taken. Look at the next verse. It came to pass, when he made mention of the ark of God, that he fell from off the back of his seat, backwards by the side of the gate, and he broke his neck, and he died. For he was an old man, and he was heavy, and he had judged Israel 40 years. Okay, God made a promise. Eli, because of these things, you're going to get judged. Your house is going to get judged. Did that come to pass? It comes to pass. When God says something, when God promises something, those things come to pass. God never fails in those things. We're getting this over and over in this study. And we need to remember this applies to this life. Be thou faithful to death, and I will give you a crown of life. God promises those things to us. When he says it, he will follow through. This is what the old scriptures tell us. Let's look at chapter 7. And then we'll answer some questions here. Chapter 7. So the Philistines capture the Ark of the Covenant, but when it gets to their camp, it does some bad stuff. Okay? They take it to the temple of their god Dagon, and it falls over and does all of these things, and then they start getting these tumors and cancers and weird stuff happening to the point of saying, okay, we don't want this thing anymore. Let's send it out of us. Let's get it out of here. We don't want this anymore. Verse 7, they fetch the ark, verse 1 of the Lord. They bring it up to the house of Abinadab to the hill and sanctified Eleazar his son to keep the ark of the Lord. When David later gets the ark, it's in this house still. So it's going to be there. It came to pass while the ark is there that the time was long. It was 20 years. So we get these time spances that are happening here. So Samuel's an older man now. Samuel spoke to the house of Israel, saying, if you return to the Lord with all your hearts, put away these strange gods from among you, and prepare your hearts to the Lord, and you will serve him. He will deliver you out of the hand of the Philistines. Common theme over and over and over again. We see him later make a sacrifice for these people. Chapter 9 and 10, he's making intercession on their behalf. And the Philistines, the children of Israel are delivered here out of the hands of the Philistines. Verse 15, Samuel judges Israel all the days of his life. Okay, now let's pick up here. We'll stop at chapter 8 and look at your handout here. Who was the judge in the temple when Hannah prayed to the Lord? That's Eli the old judge. Remember that in your brain. Eli the old judge. He was 98 when he died. Number 2, who was born in answer to Hannah's prayer? Samuel. Samuel was dedicated to God when? At his birth. Samuel's first vision, so it's interesting. Remember, Samuel is hearing God, right? Hearing God. Samuel, he's hearing it, but later, and then God tells him all these things, and that's referred to as a vision. Samuel did not want to go tell his vision to Eli. Samuel's first vision, verse 6, was God calling him and telling him Eli's house would be judged. Number 5, what 3 men would die in 1 Samuel 4? Hophni, Phinehas, and Eli, all together, that whole house. So number 6, who interceded for the Israelites against the Philistines? That is Samuel. We find out, so Samuel is both a judge and a prophet, number 7. And Samuel is going to be the last judge, and that gets us to chapter 8. All right, so Samuel is this transitional character where we go from judges to kings. Okay, so chapter 8, the people, Samuel has a similar problem as Eli. Samuel's sons, look at verse 3. Chapter 8, verse 3, Samuel's sons walked not in his ways, but they turned aside after filthy lucre, right, or after lucre, and took bribes, perverted judgment. And all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together and came to Samuel unto Ramah and said, behold, you are old, your sons walk not in your ways. Now, make us a king to judge us like all the nations. Now, what's the problem with this? They had a king, right? So they either accept to recognize that king or they reject that king. Is that similar to what can happen today? Do we all have a king? There is a king. There is a king of kings today. We can recognize him, that we are servants of the king, or we can say, I have no king. I am the king myself. I'm going to do whatever I want. And we see all these patterns and repetition of these things, or applications of what happens in the Old Testament versus what happens to Christians in their lives. We're going to talk about this Wednesday. So come back Wednesday, and we're going to apply this Old Testament studies to New Testament Christian life. Okay, make us a king to judge us so we can be like the nations around us. Okay, in this cycle of the judges, people sin, they go into bondage, they cry out, God hears them, right? And he does what? God has compassion on them, and he brings them back out. Why? Because God loves his people. Same in the New Testament, right? Now, they're going to ask for a king. Make us a king. Is God going to give them a human king? He is going to give them a king, but after he warns them that some very bad things are going to happen if you want this king. Okay? So, give us a king, verse 6. That thing displeased Samuel very much, that the people are asking, that because the people said, give us a king to judge us. Samuel prayed to the Lord. Verse 7, we need to understand this. The Lord said to Samuel, listen or hearken to the words of the people and all that they say to you. For they have not rejected you, Samuel, but they have rejected me, God. All right? So when we study with people, do not get disheartened. Do not have your countenance be taken from you because people are rejecting you. No, they're rejecting what? God. Okay? We just give the gospel out. We plant the word of God. Luke 8:1, Luke 8:11. We plant the seed. People can reject it or accept it. It's the people's decision. So Samuel, hearken, listen to the people and do everything that they're asking you to do because they're rejecting me. Okay? Verse 9, I'm going to show them what happens if they want a king. So you read in chapter 8, 10 to the end. Okay, if you get a king, he's going to take your sons and daughters. They want a king to judge them and to fight for them. Is the king going to go out and fight the battle? No. I mean, we see this early on. We'll talk about it, right? Saul goes out. This giant is there, and he's scared of that giant. And little boy David comes in that has faith, takes care of the giant. This king's not going to fight for you. He's going to take your sons and they're going to fight, right? He's going to take your daughters. They're going to be servants and they're going to do all these things. Verse 13, they'll be confectionaries, bakers. He'll take your fields. He'll take a tenth of everything that you have. Verse 16, he'll take your men servants, your maid servants, your goodliest men and your donkeys. He's going to put them to work. He's going to take the tenth of your sheep. You're going to be his servants. But look, verse 18, you're going to cry out in that day because of your king, which you have chosen you. Okay, they did this during the period of the judges, right? They cried out and God answered. But look, when you do this, now what's going to happen? And the Lord is not going to hear you in that day, right? So we see a period of kings come up here, and this starts the demise of the children of Israel. These kingdoms come along, then the kingdoms break up. Tribes are lost because they're taken into bondage later, right? God is not going to hear you anymore because you're asking for something and you're going to get what you deserve, basically. Right? Well, I don't know if that's right or not, but you're going to get what you're asking for, okay? And it's going to be hard. He tells them all of this, all right? Now, look, does God force us to do anything? Does God force us? He doesn't force us. He gives us free will. So God is making the people know this is what's going to happen. You're making a choice here. This is what's going to happen. If you make this choice, do you still want to make this choice? Verse 19. Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, no, but we will have a king over us, that we also may be like all the nations round about us, that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles. Samuel heard all the words. He rehearsed them in the ears of the Lord. And the Lord said to Samuel, hearken to their voice and make them a king. And Samuel said to the men of Israel, go, every man to his city. Y'all get out of here. The way I read that. Okay. God gives them what they want. Okay. And their lives will be miserable because of this. Yes, ma'am. Right. So the comment was, be careful what you pray for because you may get that. Okay. And so you need to discern wisdom in what you ask. Right. If the Lord wills this thing happen. Okay. They thought this would be a good thing, but it ends up turning not so good for them. Number 9. What did Samuel do when Israel asked for a king? He prayed to God. So number 10, list at least 3 things God told Samuel to tell the Israel regarding the king. Take your sons and daughters to serve. Take all your livestock. Yep, he's going to take your land. What about when you cry out? Won't hear. That's rough. All the other stuff, now, when I call on God, he's not going to hear because they have said, no, God, we don't need you anymore. Okay? And so we see this pattern over and over. Adam and Eve, everything's perfect. God only wants good. Adam and Eve said, nope, we're going to make our own decision. Okay? We see the pattern over and over. Now, people, okay, I see all the repercussions of what I'm going to do. And I still say, nope, don't want what's best for me. I'm going to go be like everybody else around me. And that does not turn out good. So, That gets us to the United Kingdom period, right? United Kingdom, there's 3 kings, SDS. Who are they? Saul, David, Solomon. That's United Kingdom period. Okay, so if you look in the back of your book, we're transitioning in from Judges to United Kingdom. And so we're going to get us to Saul now, chapter 9. Who's going to be the king? Okay, people want a king. Who's going to be the king? Verse 2. There's this man, a Benjamite, okay, of the tribe of Benjamin. And what tribe were the priests from? Levi, not Benjamin. Okay, that's important later. Okay, so Saul is from the tribe of Benjamin. Verse 2, this man from the tribe of Benjamin, he has a son. This man's son was named Saul. He was a choice man. He was goodly. There was not among the children of Israel a goodlier person, King James says. From his shoulders and upwards, he was higher than any people. So what do you think about Saul when you read this? He looked like a king, at least what we would think, right? He looks like a king. Man, if there's anybody's going to be a king, that's the guy, because he looks like the king, because people see one way, we'll find out God sees another way, right? But, okay, this is what the people want. This is what the people will get. So Saul is chosen. We're introduced to Saul there, and he is chosen as king. We will see Samuel anoint him. We'll also see Samuel anoint David as well. Samuel anoints both of those kings. So that's number 11. Which kings does Samuel anoint? He anoints Saul as king, and he will anoint David as well. Chapter 10, verse 1 is where we find him anointing Saul as king. Samuel took a vial of oil, poured it on his head, kissed him, and said, "Is it not because the Lord has appointed you to be captain over his inheritance?" And so he does this. Okay. Samuel gives Saul some information here. We're going to end up going down to Gilgal, okay? And now, Saul, when you get down there, you wait for me. 7 days, I'll be there. You wait for me. Go down to Gilgal, okay? And that's important later. You wait there. Sacrifices have to be made there. I will come down, but you wait on me, and I'll be there. That's chapter 10, verse 8, if you want to mark that. Chapter 11, the people actually make Saul a king. We'll sort of get into some of the transition of what happens here. Chapter 11, verse 15, the people make Saul king. Chapter 12, this is interesting. The people have made a choice. God didn't destroy them. Samuel knows it is not a good choice that they have made. It's a wicked thing that they have done. Look at what he tells them, chapter 12, verse 13 and following. Okay, people, now behold the king whom you have chosen and whom you have desired, and behold, the Lord has set a king over you. Okay, interesting. I have things circled here. Now, behold the king whom you have chosen and whom you desired, and behold, the king has set him a king over you. Now, but that's happened. Verse 14, there's all these conditions, right? If, okay, you did that. It's bad, but if you fear the Lord and serve him and obey his voice and do not rebel against the commandments of the Lord, then both you and the king that reigns over you continue to follow the Lord. But if you obey not the voice of the Lord, but rebel against the commandments of the Lord, then shall the hand of the Lord be against you as it was against your fathers. Now therefore stand and see this great thing which the Lord will do before your eyes. Is it not wheat harvest today? I'll call upon the Lord. He'll send thunder and rain, that you may perceive and see your wickedness is great, which you have done in the sight of the Lord, in asking for a king. So Samuel called the Lord. Lord sends thunder and rain that day, and the people greatly feared the Lord and Samuel. And they realize, we've done a bad thing. And then Samuel intercedes for them. But he tells them, verse 24, you did these bad things, but fear the Lord and serve him in truth with all your heart, and consider how great the things he has done for you. But if you do wickedly, you're going to be consumed, both you and your king. So hope is not all lost with these people, even though they've done a wicked thing by asking for a king. Hope is not lost if what? If they will obey, if they will continue to serve the Lord. Okay. That gets us to chapter 11. Saul goes down to Gilgal like he was supposed to. And what does he do? Do you remember? He's down there. He's waiting for Samuel to come. But I see Saul as this guy that he's like got ADD or something, right? He can't wait for Samuel to come. And so what does he do? He does sacrifice. What tribe was he from? Wrong tribe. It's not the Benjamites that do the sacrifices. He did not wait for the priest to come down. He presumed that God would be okay with what he was doing. Now, what does it teach us? He's not authorized. What does it teach us about today's worship? I should not presume that God will be pleased by what I do. Say, oh man, I'm a great guitar player, so surely God will be up here if I pick a little tune, because it will glorify God. Saul teaches this is wrong multiple times. Okay, this is the first time. Well, you weren't coming. I know what you told me, but you didn't show up after the 7 days. And so Saul does a sacrifice. Verse 13 of chapter 13, Samuel said to Saul, you have done foolishly. You have not kept the commandments of the Lord, your God, which he commanded you. For now would the Lord have established your kingdom upon Israel forever, but now the kingdom will not continue. The Lord has sought him a man, what? That looks beautiful, that looks like a king? No. God desires a man that is what? After his own heart. Right? We're going to see that in David, right? God looks not on the outward appearance. God wants someone after his own heart. And the Lord commanded him to be captain over his people because he has not kept that which the Lord has commanded you. Okay, Saul, you've already messed up. The kingdom will be rent from you. Now, let's look at chapter 15. We'll wrap this up. That's the first time Saul presumes things. Chapter 15, Saul is given a commandment. Should we obey all the commandments of the Lord? Yes, we should. We see that over and over. We get it again. 15 verse 1. Samuel says to Saul, the Lord sent me to anoint you to be king over this people, over Israel. Now, hearken, listen to the voice of the words of the Lord. Okay? Listen to the nations around you, the people. No, you listen to the words of the Lord. Thus says the Lord of hosts, I remember that which Amalek did to Israel, how he laid wait for him in the way when he came up from Egypt. Now, this is interesting. Is it for us to get revenge for things when we're done wrong? No. Romans 12, vengeance is mine, says what? The Lord says that. God remembers things way better and way longer, and he's more just than we will ever be. When the children came out of Egypt, they want to go to the promised land. Amalek is standing there. That's when Moses raises up his arm and Joshua's out there fighting. As long as his arm's up, they win. If they go down, they fail. Amalek tried to keep the children of Israel from going in. Now, how will that ever be made right? Right? These people that are alive now probably don't even remember that happening. But God remembers. God is just in all things. How does that apply to us? God will always be just in all things. Okay? Now, so much later, Lord says, I remember that Amalek did. Now, go destroy all the Amalekites. Destroy one of them, verse 3. No, utterly destroy all. How much is that? That's everything. Don't leave anything. You utterly destroy all. Okay, I can go do that. Verse 9. Well, verse 8. Well, they go down and they fight. Okay, but what happens? Verse 9. Get this. But Saul, mine says Saul and the people, right? Circle those. Saul and people do what? Utterly destroy everything. No, they spare Agag. They spare the best of the sheep. They spare the oxen. They spare the fatlings, the lambs. Everything was good. He would not utterly destroy them. Why? For a good purpose. Well, maybe not Amalek, but the livestock, all the good things. Why? God will be pleased if I only offer the best of the best. That will be a good thing, right? Wrong, right? Because God gave them something to do. Utterly destroy. But God, surely you will be okay with the best of the best being sacrificed to you. No. Samuel comes in. Saul, did you do everything good? No. Verse 10. Then came the word of the Lord to Samuel. God says, I regret it that I have set Saul to be king. He's turned back from following me. He's not performed my commandments. It grieved Samuel, and he cried unto the Lord all night. And when Samuel rose to meet Saul in the morning, it was told Samuel, Saul came to Carmel, and behold, he set up a place. He's gone about, passed on, gone to Gilgal. Samuel came to Saul. Saul said, Saul thinks everything's great. Saul says, blessed be thou of the Lord. I have performed the commandments of the Lord. You see how messed up our minds can get in all of this? This is how we can be led away, maybe even overtly or over time, where we think everything I'm doing is fine. But how do I know if what I'm doing is fine or not? I got to get back to the word of the Lord. What did the word of the Lord say? Utterly destroy. Saul says, I'm doing everything fine. I performed all the commandments of the Lord. And this is interesting. What Samuel, verse 14, Samuel says, well then, Saul, what is this I'm hearing? What is this, the sheep bleating and the cows mooing? What is this I hear? How can you have done all of these commandments of the Lord if I hear these things? I'm paraphrasing. And Saul says, what? I bought them to spare for the sacrifices. Samuel says in verse 17, when you were little in your own sight, when you were nothing, were you not made the head of Israel by the Lord? The Lord anointed you king over Israel. Like you didn't anoint yourself. So why do you think you can make your own decisions? The Lord told you to utterly go destroy. Verse 18, and fight of them. Verse 19, then why? Why did you not obey the voice of the Lord? Look at verse 20. Saul says, I have obeyed the voice of the Lord and have gone the way the Lord sent me. And I brought Agag the king. But look verse 21. What does he do? What's the leader do? He says, but the people did this thing, right? But what did the previous verse say? The previous said Saul and the people did these things, okay? We get we'll end up with these last two scriptures here. Verse 22, Samuel says, Saul has the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifice as in obeying the voice of the Lord. Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken, to listen, is better than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. Stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry, because you have rejected the word of the Lord. He has rejected you from being king. Right? There's lessons in all of this for us today, right? Do what God says. Don't lean on my understanding. Do what God says, or we will be rejected of God. Thank you for your attention this morning.